Dear elected leaders, with the recent dialogue about gun control and gun violence, our generation has something to say.
Since 1968, over 1 million people have been killed by firearms in the U.S.
In the United States, one person is shot every 17 minutes by a firearm.
According to the Center for Disease Control, more people die each year falling out of bed than from assault rifles.
72% of gun murders are committed by handguns, while only 4% are committed by assault rifles. This stresses the importance of background checks, so less people can get their hands on guns at all.
One possible solution to gun violence in America could be to have universal, federally run background checks, which are mandatory for anyone buying any sort of firearm.
With strict gun laws, someone somewhere will always be able to get around the rule. But if we go to the root of the issue, educate others, provide long-term care and insurance coverage for people suffering from a mental illness, as well as greater incentives for the men and women that treat them, we can restrict psychotic breaks before restricting gun laws.
Your rights only go so far until they impede on my rights. Your freedoms only extend so far until they impede on my freedoms.
We should ban private and gun show sales which don't require background checks and account for about 40% of all gun purchases.
More than 40% of gun-owning households with children store their guns unlocked.
In 2010, nearly 3 times more kids were injured with a firearm than the number of soldiers injured in Afghanistan.
We need to restrict the right to bear arms because although it's a constitutional right, other rights in the Constitution are restricted.
For every right, there's a responsibility.
If I have to go through driver's ed to drive a car, why don't you have to go through gun safety to carry a gun?
At the current homicide rate, roughly 1 in every 240 Americans will be murdered, and 66.9% of these murders will be perpetrated using a firearm.
The United States allots only 5.6% of national health care spending towards mental health treatment, although half of all Americans experience a mental illness during their lifetime.
Now that you've heard our voices, let us hear yours.